just understanding facts. And when we talk about unconscious bias, that's based on feeling. That is a fact, Trisha. So it's not about me and you disagreeing as two black women. I'm going to call you ignorant in spite of your colour if you have a lack of knowledge. Simple as that.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, Trisha, come on, you've got to answer the charge. It was basically your ignorance as in lack of knowledge of the subject you were talking about.
If somebody decides that I'm ignorant, I'm not going to sit here and try to dissuade them otherwise. They've quite clearly made up their minds. If Imam wants to call me ignorant and thinks of me as ignorant, what have you, fine, go ahead.
Trisha, you did a lot of damage that day. You did a lot of damage, and I had to come along and fix it. Just like Harry did a lot of damage, and other people had to come along and fix it. Me, Shola, Kiande, we had to come along and fix your dirty work. You know what? I don't have time for people like you when you come on national TV spewing garbage. And you're right. I'll actually add to your second point. I don't want to argue, because I'm a bit more... In fact, I don't believe black women should come onto TV arguing, so I'll just leave it at that. I called you ignorant because of your lack of knowledge. It kind of ends there, basically.
I mean, Trisha, what I would say as the token white man in this debate is I would say this...
Wait for it.
...about what happened last week. I was surprised, actually, that you, with all your experience of broadcasting and journalism, you're a smart person, that even you, when you heard Harry basically gaslighting the world...
Stop it.
...by saying, we never... It was the media that said that this was racism. We didn't say that. And then you literally watch back exactly what they said to Oprah Winfrey, and they were blatantly accusing...
Wait for it.
...a senior member of the royal family of being racist about their unborn child's skin colour. I was surprised that you couldn't find it in yourself, notwithstanding your support for them, but as a black woman, to understand the damage that that did in playing the race card as strong as they did to Oprah Winfrey, and then expecting 2 years later we would all just sit back when they go, we didn't mean it as racism, and we'd all go, oh, that's all right then, after 2 years. I want to talk about two sets of people who are globally known and have had a lot said and written about them. The first, on the lighter end, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Okay.
You have some quite strong views about these two.
They're my favorites.
Yeah, tell me about your views of these two.
I love them. They're my favorites. You know, reality television in America had kind of died down, and they've brought it back.
What?
It's very interesting to make a 3-part documentary on Netflix about how bad things are while living in a castle. I find the lack of self-awareness there to be very fun. I mean, they're very funny. They simulated some type of car chase in New York City that didn't really happen. There was a cab driver that was driving them around, said it did not happen. I know people in Los Angeles that they've texted and reached out to because they kind of want to hang out in these circles with celebrities. They got a big deal at Spotify. Spotify didn't make any money. Now the articles are coming out that Spotify lost a lot of money, giving them money to do all these things that they never ended up really doing, and nobody ended up listening after the first few episodes.
What the hell?
So victimhood, it makes me laugh. And when someone is clearly not a victim, and I think living in a castle, being part of a royal family, would make you not a victim.
Yes.
And to me, to portray yourself as somebody who's having a rough go of it whilst living in a castle with royal protection and then leaving and flying to America to stay in the home of a big celebrity. And
Stop it.
it's a beautiful home. They make me laugh. I mean, I like them. I hope they don't go away. I hope they keep doing this. I hope they keep behaving shamefully. It's great for the tabloids. It's great for us. We keep doing it. Keep simulating car chases, simulate terrorist attacks, whatever they want to do that keeps them in the news. I'm all for it.
Harry and Meghan, currently the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, famously gushed about their love of chickens in one of the more saccharine moments of their Oprah Winfrey sobfest. Well, the chickens are now coming home to roost for these two. The royal family kept a stoic silence as the poisoned darts rained down from their Californian pedestal. But King Charles is quietly and devastatingly taking charge now. We now know that he booted the couple out of their palatial Frogmore cottage just 24 hours after Harry's book Spare, or Spare Me as I call it, was published. We also now know that. What was it I said about Meghan Markle?
I am. Would you let me talk?
Ever that's been racist?
Are you going to let me talk, or are you just going to overtalk me?
Just answer the question. Stop asking different questions. What about the issue of race? And I mentioned that in the context of the Harry and Meghan ongoing debate, their war with the royal family, war against the monarchy, their specific, constant referencing to the fact that they believe they were driven out of here because of racism in Britain. What do you make of that debate?
That's absolute fallacy.
And you're from a mixed race background yourself.
Correct. I'm from a mixed race background myself. And while we're discussing the leaders of the UK, although I do think they're doing a terrible job, it's kind of hard for Meghan to say that the UK is a racist country when the leader of the UK is darker skinned than her and the mayor of London is darker skinned than her. And I am a person who's probably darker skinned than her, and I've never experienced any kind of bigotry against myself besides the fact I'm a straight male. I'll get bigotry for that before I'll get bigotry for my skin color. I think it's just a cop-out, and her not wanting to be perspicacious and self-reflective enough to understand that she has attacked an age-old institution. And there are people who are very patriotic about that institution. And by attacking it and bringing a degree of distaste to it, there's going to be people who don't like her. And if you're a dislikable person, you can't just instantly stand up and say it's because of my skin color. It might be because of your actions and some of the things you've said.
What the hell?
I mean, I think there's probably no doubt she's had racism on social media because it's...
Who hasn't, Piers?
It's a cesspit.
You probably have.
Well, as I said just now, I've had death threats on social media and no one seemed to care very much.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably inarguable. My issue with what... they've both been doing is if you're going to make allegations against an institution like the royal family and the monarchy, you've got to actually provide some evidence. You can't just spray gun this thing out there and say, well, somebody was racist.
Yeah, and airing dirty laundry is never going to be
What the hell?
respected by the populace, and being a tattletale is never going to be respected by the populace. And I think the problem with the modern world we're living in is a lot of age-old traditions are being destroyed in real time. It doesn't matter what the tradition is. Most of them are being eroded. And something like the British royal family, which has been around for a very long time, is an age-old tradition. One of the things holding the UK together, one of the last things we have, to sit and detriment it and to sit and insult it and to give away secrets from inside of it and try and paint a negative image of it is going to upset a lot of people. And you have to be prepared for that backlash. You can't say I've done things that upset people, but it's nothing to do with what I've done. It's purely because of my skin color. Also, it's kind of ironic that she's doing that because she's not particularly dark-skinned. It's kind of funny to sit here.
I mean, look,
wait for it. Sit and say,
yeah,
race.
I think the truth is, I don't know what... Look, you can say that. I can't. The reality of it is, I just don't know what the specifics of the racism she says she's had because we've not seen...
Here it comes.
...any evidence.
The universe is a funny place, Piers. If you're looking for something, you're going to find it, right? When I got cancelled...
For potentially one day being king. His wife has been seriously ill. His father, the king, has cancer, which apart from anything else, may mean that he himself has to consider potentially acceding to the throne earlier than he would have ever wanted to do. He doesn't speak to his only sibling, who's been trashing him in public, left, right and centre. And they both suffered the same trauma when they were kids of losing their mother, which was a trauma. I knew Diana, I loved Diana like we all did. It was awful, horrific, the whole thing. But I don't see that William has had to go through any worse than Harry. The only difference is that rather than go down the path of running to America and fleecing his titles for hundreds of millions of dollars, whilst constantly trashing the institution that bestowed them, William has chosen silence in public, dignity, decorum, and duty.
Well, he didn't have much choice, did he, because of the position.
Actually, he did. He could walk away.
Well,
Edward, when he fell in love with an American woman, walked away.
But I think Maureen's point about Kate's illness at the moment is a big factor in why there was no meeting between those brothers, if ever that was going to be on the cards. Because
here it comes.
He is so protective over his wife, and there is no trust there. There is no trust that any conversations that happen aren't going to be briefed out.
Harry even wrote, just to remind everybody, Harry even wrote about private conversations with his father and his brother at Prince Philip's funeral
Yeah,
site
in the grounds of Frogmore House, when his father apparently said, don't make my last years a misery.
Think about that for a moment. Okay. Revealing conversations you had with your father and your brother at your grandfather's funeral in a book.
But it's why I said I thought Harry's tone has shifted, because that interview on Good Morning America was actually pretty guarded. He talked about being grateful for the time he had.
Also talked about wanting to be American. And you know
he
why?
Said it wasn't a high priority.
Yeah, you know why? Because if he wants to be an American, he has to give up the titles.
Yes, you can't.
First thing you have to do, and Maureen, I'll bring you back in here. First thing you have to do if you take out American citizenship, you give up all your titles if you're British. And so Harry would go back to just being Harry and Meghan. And by the way, good luck to those two with their empire commercial plans.
That doesn't make sense.
If they don't have the royal stuff to exploit.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in America, and the first thing I thought was, well, so much for just Harry. You know, he's never going to give those titles up. Meghan clings to them as well. It is Exhibit A in terms of their rampant and unceasing hypocrisy. My favorite detail from the Whistler trip was that the head of the Invictus event there was instructed to
wait for it.
Call Harry and Meghan Sir and Ma'am.
I know.
So if anyone thinks these two are just going to get back down with the rest of American civilians, and, you know, Meghan's going to forfeit showing up in a glamour shot with a $3,000 Hermes coat while she's meeting wounded warriors. I mean, these two continue to dig their own holes. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean,
you serious?
Here in America, I consider it one of the greatest pieces of performance art we've got going.
And you know what? I think they lost most Americans, Sarah, when they came up with this obviously cock and bull story about being chased around New York at 100 miles an hour for 2 hours. Anyone who's been in New York knows that's impossible. The traffic doesn't move. You were dying to get in there, so.
Well, I was. It's the point about the.
Wait for it.
Dining out on the royal connections. They were heavily criticised for the use of the Sussex name.
Yeah.
They're going to take it as a family name. Look, Harry was Harry Wales. George and Charlotte and Louis, before they became the Waleses, were the Cambridges. So there's nothing new about.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
Do you want your kids to have a royal title when you believe the monarchy as an institution has caused you such irreparable damage?
Well, I agree with that, but I also find it interesting that Archie and Lilibet will be known as Sussex, because actually it's a far less royal sounding name for an American market than Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, but it goes for their Duke and Duchess, right?
So I understand that Harry's issue was with the institution, and I know that you keep referencing that he's trashing his father and trashing his brother. But I think we also need to be fair.
We're not referencing it, that's what he's done.
I think we also need to be fair. It's right that Harry hasn't hidden behind the "and a royal source" reports, because we know that that's what happens. Very often stories are in the papers about the Windsor House or the Sussex House or the Cambridge House, and it's a royal source is reported. Now, Harry doesn't have that to hide behind, but to suggest that there are stories put out about Harry...
Harry doesn't have what?
A royal source.
Oh, please do me a favour. Please do me a favour. Paula.
What I'm saying is, they're not hiding.
How do you think we even...
How do you think hiding behind
How do you think People magazine...
But the stories come out.
How do you think People magazine knew about his fig leaf?
The stories come out.
You know how?
You can't suggest...
You know how?
That nobody is putting out stories against Harry.
Because his own people brief just as much as the palace.
OK, so you're accepting again...
Stop it.
You're accepting again what I'm saying then.
I think you should accept. I probably know a little bit more, with respect, about the way this all works.
Superiority,
having been part of the media for 35 years.
Asking you.
I can tell you,
that's right.
He and his wife use the media just as aggressively as anyone at the palace does on the other side. I can tell you that.
That's my point.
Anyway,
grateful.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you all very much indeed. To my pack and to Maureen over in New York, much appreciated. Doubtless we will meet again to discuss it.